Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly, and welcome everybody once again for another amazing video of DIY investing. There is blood in the streets. We opened Monday with a nasty sell-off inside of Bitcoin and the rest of the cryptocurrencies markets. I wanted to give you guys a deep analysis that's going to further update my last trading plan that I showed you guys on Friday, because I'm going to go into as far as I can to really explain to you guys what I'm expecting across the board, not only with cryptocurrencies, but with gold and the dollar index as well, because all of these things are very correlated and they're going to perfectly explain what is happening inside of the markets and how we can go about profiting off of this. This is the great buying opportunity that I've been expecting, and I'm going to be doing everything that I can to unload all of my extra cash into these markets over the next couple weeks, because I really do strongly believe that this is going to be one of the last good buying opportunities that we're going to get for our long-term bags, so that we can make that threshold of a year and a day, so we can get that tax break. If you're new and just finding this channel, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to this channel for more updates. Make sure that you guys click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos like the one provided for you here. And always remember, guys, I have the fastest growing and the very best Discord community out there for cryptocurrency, and I would love it if you guys would join. It's free for anybody that wants to. All you guys got to do to join is to click inside of the description of this video, and there you're going to find the invitation link to my Discord server. Now, on the Discord server, I also offer my more exclusive content like the video course and signals. So if you guys want access to that, make sure you stay all the way to the end of this video, because I'm going to be taking a couple minutes to explain how you guys can get signed up, pros of doing so, and what it's going to take to get you guys going today. I also wanted to mention that I have a free ebook that you guys can download inside of the link in the description of this video. So if you guys would like to get access to my free ebook, I have a little video. It's about 38 pages long. It goes into a lot of detail on trading terminology as well as investing strategies. And it also gives you guys a nice little quiz so that you guys can read through it, brush up on some information, and then actually go about learning and researching it so you guys can understand trading and investing a little bit further. It's free, so make sure you guys download that by clicking inside the description of this video. And with all that being said, guys, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty, guys, so first things first, we're going to dive into some Bitcoin analysis. I wanted to take it to the shorter time frames today, because this thing really got rejected off of my supply blocks that I actually drew on Friday. So this is a big update. We got to just talk about a bunch of things. Obviously, Bitcoin has sold off significantly. We are getting a little bit of a relief right down here at about the... started at about 10,175, and we're currently sitting at about 10,400, just under. So it looks like we're getting a little bit of relief right here. In my opinion, this is going to be a nice little bounce that'll probably take us back upwards of about 10.6. And then we could actually load up on more short opportunities. And so this is kind of the thing that I've been watching for. You know, we were looking at this level. We were watching to see if we were going to actually sell off, and Monday opened, which I was expecting to have happen, because generally speaking, the market on the weekends is just unreliable, because it always relies upon the heavier markets inside of the financial space, you know, whether it's the stock market, whether it's gold and silver, you know, all of these other markets, we really are hinged upon those, because crypto is still so early, it's still so underdeveloped, and so for that, that's the important part that we need to watch out for. Now, because we got rejected off of this, and we had this type of sell-off, I'm expecting further downside. I'm expecting that we're going to break below this level that we held support at about 10K approximately, and we're actually going to fall much lower. And so I wanted to give you guys an update, go through a couple different things, just furthering my trading plan, furthering my analysis, because this is really what I was expecting from this point. Obviously, I was really bullish down in here. I was labeling this as a support and resistance flip after a major breakout of our downtrend. But once we started venturing upwards of the resistance, I started taking a look at Ethereum. I started taking a look at some of the other markets, and I started to realize that, you know, this wasn't actually as bullish as I made it out to be. And so for that, back here at Friday, I told you guys that I was expecting this to sell off, and we're actually going to go to new lows. This is exactly what's happened. So I just wanted to give you guys another update, talk about some things, talk about some updates as far as if anything's changed. And yeah, so let's dive right into here, guys. Basically, when I look at this, obviously speaking, we've broken out from this giant symmetrical triangle pattern. But with that being said, I still think that we're going to sell off for one more low. Now, because of the severity of this correction that we're seeing right now, you know, it's going to be a little bit more apparent to me that we're going to have a little bit of a deeper correction. Now, that's the only real thing that's changed for me as follows. Now, one of the biggest things to understand, guys, is we have the Cme Gap, right? So if we come and pull that up over here, we're going to go to the futures market for Bitcoin, and we're going to go take a look at that gap. because this is really, really important. So we have like I think we have like 100% success rate of filling these gaps, or at least in high 90s. Either way, it's a really, really high chance of us filling that gap. And so our gap comes at about 9,650 upwards to about 9,900. That's really where the gap is. We kind of tagged it a little bit on the top of the support with the wicks, but we never actually filled this level. And so I'm going to be watching for this level to be filled. Maybe it is possible that we go down a little bit lower, which in that case, would personally put me at a support level about right here. About 9K approximately. I think that that's going to be the next logical support level if in fact we can't just manage support above the CME gap. Usually when we'd fill these CME gaps, they'd usually happen pretty quickly and then we'd bounce up again. With this one, I don't know. Maybe we come down, fill it, get rejected, and then we fall to one more low, something like that. We're just going to have to watch and see. Nonetheless, it doesn't really matter because macro, which means just the big picture trend, I'm still going to be bullish regardless because I don't look at this as anything major. I just look at this as a corrective move after we had such a massive impulse coming from the COVID crash. And so when we look at this, there's really no reason to be super fearful by anything. My long-term stance has not changed in the slightest. The only thing that's really changed is the fact that we're getting a little bit of a deeper correction here, which when I look at this, I think 9,100 is going to provide a pretty strong level. This was a level that we've watched in times past. This was the level of support for the descending triangle that we had back in the summer, heading into the last fall of last year. And then we ended up crashing from that. But from this point, we've had reactions to the same level a number of different times. This is where it became resistance before the COVID crash. We held support above this level for a little while just recently as we consolidated before the recent breakout of this downtrend. And now I'm expecting that we're actually going to manage to hit this level once again. Now, the reason for this is just because, we already came so close to filling that CME gap right here that for me personally, it just makes a little bit more sense that if we're only a couple $100 within the vicinity, we're not going to need just a tiny little sell-off to fill that gap. It makes a little bit more sense to me that if we're going to actually sell through that level, it's going to create a much bigger sell-off, which is going to take us to about 9,100, about 9K, 9,100, wherever you want to give you guys the number. It doesn't really matter. It's just somewhere within that range. And so when I look at that, that's really the thing that I'm going to be watching out for. I just think that we're going to sell off, hit about 9,100, and we're going to get a nice little sell-off and a good opportunity to buy. And that's the most important thing to understand here, guys. Nothing changes. I mean, just because we sell off to 9,100, this is still coming to retest the previous descending resistance, except it's going to act as support, and we're going to get a nice bounce from that level. And so that's the most important thing to understand here, guys. Just because we're selling off does not mean we're bearish. We've still broken from all of our major descending resistances. This has been a major symmetrical triangle pattern that we've been developing for multi-years at this point. And so it makes sense to me that we would sell off, actually end up retesting the support level of this, and then getting that buyback that's going to take us to new all-time highs. Regardless, guys, my long-term approach has still never faltered, and I'm still very much bullish on the long term because I just think that this is just going to be us retesting. Because the thing to understand here, guys, this was just a one-wave impulse. This is wave 1, this is wave 3, and this was wave 5. And so this is our first corrective move coming from that massive impulse that we saw after the COVID panic. We've broken well above all the resistances, all well and above. We've made higher highs above all of this stuff. And so just because we're coming back down to correct and retest support levels does not mean that we're bearish in the slightest. This is just a further correction and a further opportunity to buy more or less. And that's the thing to understand here. We got to look at it like that. Now, when we look at gold, we can see that if we drop to the shorter time frames, we can actually see that we did sell through that triangle that I was watching for. I expected that this was going to sell off. Now, I saw a lot of people trying to draw the triangle up here, but to me, it just didn't make any sense. It made much more logical sense to actually draw it in the way that fit the parameters. We can see that we were consolidating, coiling within this triangle. It came right after a sell-off, which came up here. This was really the big impulse that we saw heading from last year, even down to 2018. About November, gold's been on a major tear since about, September of 2018, 2 years ago. We've almost exactly 2 years ago, we've just been on this massive tear with very little pullbacks. And so I was watching this triangle because I was actually expecting that we were going to sell through this. It came after the top of a cycle. We came down, and then this was a lower high, and then this was just further consolidation in that sideways action. I expected it to sell off because of the fact this was coming after a sell-off already. You know, a lot of people were trying to draw the triangle up here like this, but I just didn't see it fitting like that. I felt like that was trying to fit a bias, whereas this was much more logical in my opinion. And now we've actually sold through that. Now, because we've sold through this, I was expecting that we were going to come down and hit about $1,800, which if we zoom out to a bigger time frame, you guys will start to understand why. You know, we did get a little bit of a relief rally as we retested the previous high. That's why we started to see this wick come in here. But I expect this to actually sell off and actually come back down to retest about 1,800. Because this is the support level. Technically, it was a resistance level for a long time when we first initially started selling off inside of gold. But I'm expecting that this is going to be the next level of support this time around. Because we never really retested this level. We just broke up. And now this is going to be us making our first corrective move back down and actually hitting this level right here. And so I just want to make sure that we're aware of this. You know, there's no big reason to be fearful. Anytime gold sells off, anytime, you know, the stock market sells off, which we're seeing right now, that's always going to be inherent that Bitcoin sells off in the process. And that's just the way it goes, because Bitcoin is still very much correlated to these other asset prices. It's still really correlated to stocks. And so because of that, it's really hingent upon what happens with the rest of the markets, because there's more money inside of those markets. And so obviously Bitcoin is going to be infected by whatever the heck happens inside of those markets. And so it's important to understand this, guys. Just because we're selling off does not mean that we're macro bearish, because of the fact gold's actually broken all-time highs and is now just retesting some of these levels. I expect a nice little bleed to happen inside of the alts, a nice little shakeout. But with that shakeout is going to come an amazing buying opportunity. And same with gold even. I mean, if you guys were ever looking to load up on some more gold investments, if it was me, I'd be waiting until 1,800 before I really start to average in. And that's going to be the way that I'm looking at cryptos. You know, I'm not going to be looking at so much for the crypto markets to be averaging into. I'm going to be looking at where gold starts to hit closer to this $1,800 level that I want to average into those markets, because that's what's most important to me. The markets that have the most money in them, those are going to be the biggest key indicators for knowing what's going to happen with the rest of the cryptos in general. And so with gold, you know, we've broken all-time highs. This is us coming back down to retest the previous support level, the previous resistance level, which is now going to act as support. And so for that, you know, this is going to go into price discovery. Nonetheless, what I would expect to happen with gold would be something like this. Just a short-term A, B, C. We're going to hit this level, 1,800, and then we're going to get a nice buyback. And when gold gets this buyback, guys, expect cryptos to just go insane. And that's why I really have looked at this as just an amazing buying opportunity, is because gold's breaking all-time highs. It's retesting those highs. And this thing is heading into price discovery, which I would expect, based off of this move, that we're going to see gold at about $5,000 per ounce. I think that that's a realistic target for this next major cycle. And for that, you know, cryptocurrencies are going to go up with it. You know, stocks are going to go up with it. You know, stocks are the one thing that could have the potential to bleed lower. But in my opinion, with the amount of money that they're printing, everything's going to go up. There's going to be a perceived value increase, even if it's just inflation alone. You know, it's commodities like gold, like silver, like cryptocurrencies that are going to be the hedges for all of that inflation. And, you know, cryptocurrencies themselves are perfectly designed for this exact moment. You know, anytime you have deflationary assets inside of an inflationary economy, and we just increase the money supply by 30% by printing more money, how is that not going to positively impact the prices of cryptos? And that's the thing, guys. People don't understand that. The value of cryptos isn't so much the actual intrinsic value themselves. A lot of it's just the inverse chart of the dollar. I mean, we look at how Bitcoin has just gone so parabolic over the years, and it's more or less just a cross indicator, and it's more or less just the inverted chart of the dollar. And that's the thing that people don't understand, is the fact that it's a deflationary asset in an inflationary economy. And so what you're seeing is more volatility of the dollar. It's not so much just the price of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just a safe haven asset. It's scarce. There's a fine supply. And for that, people are going to hedge their investments into it, because we just print more dollars, and our spending power and our buying power is just constantly diminished. And that's the thing to understand, guys. It's really, really inherent that we just focus on the long-term trend. And what we're seeing with the rest of the commodity market, being gold, being silver, is really bullish territory, specifically gold. Gold's breaking out of its all-time high. It's retesting some of the highs, and we're going to get a nice buyback from that. And so even though we're getting this short-term shakeout, this is a buying opportunity. It's not any time to be panicking, because, you know, this is going to be the way it goes. We saw such a massive rally the whole way up especially since COVID, because COVID happened right here. We've seen nothing but a massive rally with no corrective moves. Now we're starting to see our first correction, and that's not the time where you want to get shaken out. This is where you want to double down, you want to buy more, you want to do everything that you can to increase your position size, because what's going to spawn from this is going to be crazy parabolic movements, and if we're not ready beforehand, we're not going to be able to capitalize on that. Now quickly, let's talk about the US dollar currency index, because we are actually getting that buyback that I was talking to you guys about. I was talking to you guys about this because I was personally watching for the fact that this to me just looked like too much bullish divergence forming. We could see that right here. We were really uptrending with making lower lows in price, which is just classic textbook example of a bullish divergence. And now we're starting to get that impulse. In my opinion, we're going to continue to go up a little bit higher here. We're really just hinged upon gold. You know, the dollar is going to go up as long as gold is going down. So if gold's going to go down to about $1,800, you know, that could potentially put the US dollar index somewhere at about, probably somewhere, let's see here. I would not be the least bit surprised to see if that puts the US dollar index back up to about 95. And that's what I'm going to be watching out for personally. You know, I think that this is going to get a nice buyback. And we're going to come upwards of here as everybody starts to hedge into the dollars, as gold's topping, as cryptos are topping, as stocks are topping, most importantly. And for that, we're going to get a nice little relief here inside of the US dollar. Now, when this happens, obviously it's going to bleed everything. Gold's going to be going down to back down to retest this $1,800 level. Bitcoin itself, in my opinion, is going to head down to about 9,100. And, you know, some of the other cryptos might see a little bit more prolific of a sell-off because they've had a lot more gains to actually be had since COVID actually happened. So just understand that, guys. Understand that there's not a big reason to be scared. Understand that this is just the way it goes. Part of the big reason why I was getting more bearish was because of the pattern of Ethereum. This itself is just a classic example of a diamond top. You know, we actually got a diamond bottom after COVID. And I'm going to try and draw it here, even though it's going to look really crazy. So yeah, I know that this thing looks really ugly, but this is an example of a diamond top pattern. We actually got one right here. In Bitcoin, this was a diamond bottom reversal. So this was just the inverse of that chart. And we can see that we ended up breaking out, you know, and going into that big impulse right after this happened. So this was a diamond bottom reversal. This was a diamond top reversal. And so now we're going to come back down and actually retest some of these levels. And so when I saw this, guys, it was very apparent to me that we were sitting under resistance. It was possible that we could have held, but based off of the sell-off, it's very apparent that this was not going to hold. This showed a lot more supply in this area, and for that, we're now getting the downside sell-off. Now, we are really close to this first level here. This was basically the top of the resistance at about right before that COVID crash. This came at about February of 2020, and this is about $290. Now, when I look at this, guys, based off of this type of sell-off, I'm personally not expecting that this level is going to be the one that holds. I think that we're going to go a little bit lower, and we're actually going to fall closer to about 200 and approximately 250. About right here. I think it's a little bit more likely that we're going to head downwards of about 250, and we could even go as low as about $220. That would be amazing, guys. That would be an amazing buying opportunity all throughout here, guys. Any bit of this panic that you guys can catch is going to be an amazing buying opportunity. I don't care what way you look at it, what price you buy, all of it. Anything sub $300 for Ethereum is just a really good opportunity for the long-term hold. And that's the way I'm looking at it, guys. You know, we did have this massive move ever since COVID happened. This itself is just a 1. This was a 3. This was a 5 impulse, and we're now getting our first sell-off from that. There's no reason to be super scared about it. This is what's going to happen time and time again. We're just getting that corrective move back down, retest some support levels before, you know, inevitably we go back up again. And that's what I'm expecting, guys. Like I stated, I expect this next impulse to happen and go really quickly. And with gold just managing to fall back down, retest some of these previous resistance levels of support, this is price discovery. And when gold starts breaking out into price discovery, cryptos are going to feel that. And, you know, we're going to start to see that massive impulse that's going to take us upwards of that all-time high mark. And it's going to happen quick. And I don't think people are going to expect it. I think people are going to be too shaken out and too fearful of crypto to really maximize that opportunity. And, I just wanted to make sure that you guys are aware that I personally am going to be doing everything that I can to buy more Ethereum. I'm going to buy some of my other altcoins, obviously, but you guys are just going to hear it from me first. I'm going to do everything that I can to buy a lot of Ethereum, because with that Ethereum, I can trade it on Uniswap. With that Ethereum, I could run a node when ETH 2.0 gets released. And, guys, 80% plus of the market is built upon Ethereum or relies upon Ethereum in some way. And for that, why wouldn't you just buy that? My opinion, Ethereum's the most key safe haven asset for cryptocurrencies to go with, because it has the most utility, it has the most development, and for that, it's going to outperform Bitcoin, which is most important. I want stuff that's going to outperform Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a little bit older, Bitcoin's a little bit more stable, but with that being said, I think Ethereum is going to be that next catalyst for this next cycle. And so for that, I'm going to be looking to buy this dip. I'm going to do everything that I can. I was looking at about 290, which I will buy. I have buy order set at 290, but I'm going to be looking to increase my portfolio much closer to about 260 to 220. Right around that range is where I'm going to be doing. If I do get that opportunity, I'm going to be unloading a ton of money into Ethereum, because I've got a large cash pile sitting on the sidelines waiting. I've been waiting for a correction ever since we've kind of just been impulsing up here. And so for that, I'm going to do what I can to just buy that dip, do everything that I can, because I just look at it as a really, really, really key opportunity for long-term holding. Now, when we look at the total market cap, we can see that, in my opinion, the total market cap is just going to be us retesting this previous level down here. And then we're going to get a nice buyback before we start breaking out into new all-time highs. And this is the next rally, guys, after the sell-off is going to be the one that takes us close to that all-time high mark. We've already broken from all of our major descending resistances. This was us getting kind of away from that trend line without us ever retesting it. We just kind of broke off and just left it behind really quickly. Now, oftentimes when price does this, it usually means we're about to see a corrective move back down, and this is going to be us retesting that previous descending resistance. This is where it's going to act as support, and then we're going to get a nice strong buyback. And so when we start to fall back down closer towards this level at about 270 billion, I'm going to start buying. I'm going to start doing a lot more looking into the markets for entries for my long-term bids. I'm going to be looking into coins that I haven't quite accumulated yet that I'm going to want to, because I expect this just to be a really solid time to buy for those long terms, a really solid time to accumulate for that long-term trend of 2021, because that's the ultimate goal here. 2021 is the goal. I'm not selling anything before that because it just does not make sense in my opinion. That's just my personal trading plan. Now, really, the altcoin total market cap looks pretty similar. We actually broke out. COVID was the retest of that move. And now this is us just kind of getting really far away from that trend. Now, when I look at this, it's going to do the same thing. Just a short-term correction, back down, consolidate before we go up much higher. We have to have a little pullback in between. This is going to be the way that the cycles work. And if you're not ready beforehand, you guys are going to get shaken out time and time again. And so for me, guys, when we're in the early stages of the cycle, when we're mainly just ranging like this, I use what I can to just buy more. If we get blood, I buy more, because it's really hard to predict what's going to happen inside all the choppy action. I mean, really, we've just been ranging sideways back and forth for a long time, a lot of years at this point, over 2 years. And so for that, whenever we do this type of stuff, you're going to get chopped up if you're trying to trade and you're trying to guess exactly what's going to happen. You're trying to be in and out of the market. All you can really do is just wait for the blood and buy the blood, because it's hard to know exactly what's going to happen. Long term, I'm still very much bullish. But we've been ranging for so long that when the sell-offs do come, you just want to be ready to buy those. You don't want to be selling below the all-time high, because if we look at the last cycle, I have this little label drawn here, which I've already shared with you guys this time and time again. But this bottom structure, based off of the current cycle, which is this black chart, and based off of the last cycle, which was this one down here, it looks almost the exact same. Obviously, there's can be some differences between the two, but when it looks this identical, we know that the bulk of that bull run came shortly after that, right? It was this move that came shortly after this type of consolidation, all of the choppy action, and then we saw an explosion in value. And so this is the way I'm playing this, guys. I'm not going to be selling anything down in here because it doesn't make sense. I'm only going to be accumulating. I haven't sold any of my long terms. I haven't taken any profits on virtually anything. The only stuff I do take profits on is short-term stuff that I took 1% to 2% risk of a trade in, which was like nothing. It was minuscule. And for that, it was a short-term trade that I was taking anyways. But the majority of stuff that I post signals for is me buying and holding a long-term approach. It's me just getting a nice entry, holding that long-term trend, because that's where you make the majority of that money. So there's no reason to get shaken out. There's no reason to be super fearful. I just wanted to give you guys this update, go through about every single chart I could possibly think of. Wanted to give you guys an update with the total market cap as well as the altcoin total market cap. Wanted to share with you guys my updated analysis inside of Bitcoin. I personally think we're going to see about $9,100. Gold, you know, that's going to bring down Bitcoin with it. We're going to come down and retest about $1,800. Finish out that before going into price discovery. The dollar is going to get some relief during all of this stuff, because obviously that's what's going to happen when there's a lot of weakness inside of the global markets. There's going to be strength inside of the dollar because everybody wants stability. And so we're going to see a nice little impulse inside of the dollar that's going to take us upwards of about 95, close to about 96 on that US dollar currency index. Ethereum is going to get a nice sell-off back down to about 290 to about potentially down to 250. Personally, the range that I'm going to be looking to accumulate the majority of my ETH at is going to be about 260 to about 220. If I can get 220 Ethereum, oh my gosh, guys, I'm going to do everything I can to just unload cash. You don't want to get too excited quite yet. We are experiencing the dip, but I expect that this dip is going to be a lot deeper than people are expecting right now. And for that, I'm just going to be holding my cash. I'm going to be waiting to just start to average into my new positions, because this is where I'm going to be buying a lot of long-term stuff, is right now. This is the time where you either buckle down to your opinion and your bullish stance on the market, or you just get out, sell everything, and be done with it. And that's the thing, guys. I am so bullish on the long-term approach of cryptocurrencies. Sure, we're getting that short-term correction. Sure, I thought we were just going to start breaking out. It doesn't matter. I'm actually more excited now because I do get that buying opportunity. I didn't know if we were going to get this. Now I'm getting this buying opportunity, and I'm super excited, guys. I'm more excited now because of the fact I get to actually accumulate a lot more cheaper crypto. A lot of people are going to be shaken out. A lot of people are going to be pissed off. But if you're pissed off right now, it's because you're doing something wrong in your trading plan. The only way you should be pissed off when the market is selling off is if you invested too much, if you invested money that you couldn't lose, or you were listening to somebody that you just trusted way too much, you put way too much faith in one opinion, and for that, the market's going down, and now you're pissed at him. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are pissed at me, but that's the thing that is the emotional psychology of the market. People are always going to be irritated. When the market goes down, people are always going to be pissed off, and because of that, you just got to ignore it. It doesn't matter. For me, I'm looking at this as an opportunity. I am not shaken out in the slightest. I have cash on the sidelines ready to buy this dip, and I'm so excited because of the fact we are getting this dip. Anything under $300 for Ethereum, I'm going to do what I can to buy it. I'm super excited and confident about Ethereum long term. I love the technology that all of this stuff is doing, and it solves so many real world problems. And for that, I have no reason not to be buying this. This is discounted prices. Every great investor will tell you to buy when there's blood in the streets. When there's panic, to buy the blood. If you're not willing to do that, there's no reason you should be angry. There's no reason that you should be taking that out on anybody but yourself, because at the end of the day, it's you who makes your trades. It's you who makes the decisions. And that's the ultimate thing at the end of the day, is just to make sure that you are able to buy that panic, because this is where you get discounts, guys. You don't want to be selling when everything else is going down, because this is you participating in the discount for us, all of the people that want to buy it. You don't want to do that. You merely want to be buying because this is discounted prices. Everybody, when the price was up here and we were watching Ethereum break 400, heading upwards of $500, everybody was saying, oh man, I really wish I could have bought Ethereum down here at sub $300 levels. And now we start to sell off, and we're getting the opportunity to buy sub $300 levels, and you don't hear anybody actually buying it. For me, I'm going to be buying it. I'm super excited about this opportunity, and I think that you guys should. But anyways, guys, before we wrap things up, I wanted to quickly take a couple minutes to explain how you guys can sign up for the video course and signals for the people that want to. Now, first things first, if you're getting into this market and you want to follow off of a guide to teach you guys how to trade, to teach you guys how to invest, always remember to just look into my course. It's 20 educational videos that are going to teach you guys all of my strategies for profiting. You guys are going to go into a lot of key information that's going to teach you guys investing, teach you guys a little bit about trading, teach you guys short-term trading as well as long-term, but majority of my stuff is focused on the long-term. And so you guys are going to be able to take these strategies, you're going to be able to apply them to the cryptocurrencies markets, and you're going to be able to make a good amount of money doing so, because it's really everything I've ever learned inside of this market, everything I've learned investing, everything that I've ever learned with just trading strategies, Fibonacci, more intermediate, beginner, and advanced stuff is all going to be correlated inside of there. Now, for the people that would rather just follow along with my signals, if you guys can only pick one, I always recommend to go with the signals first, because you guys can make some money copying all of my trades. You guys can follow my trading plans. And if you're out here getting chopped up inside of the market, perfect opportunity to dive into that stuff. And so if you guys want access to that, you guys can purchase them together or separate. Links are going to be provided inside of the description of this video, where you guys can actually find my checkout to buy either my course or my signals. Remember, you guys can also download my free ebook by clicking inside the description of this video as well. So tons of free information in there. I've really worked hard on providing a key guide for you guys to learn a little bit of education on investing, learn how to trade a little bit, and all of it's going to be provided for you in there. So even if you guys can't afford the video course or signals, or you're just a little bit skeptical still, check out that ebook. It's going to be free for you guys. You guys can just go over that, kind of get a little bit of a more insider approach as far as what I do. Maybe it is for you, maybe it isn't, but either way, check that out. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with all that being said, I'll catch you in the next video. As always, peace out.